A very beautiful afternoon to you, and I hope it's a sunny one as well. You're welcome to Ondo Decides 2024. And of course, the last off-cycle election watch for us, a punch in the year 2024. Now, the governorship election in Ondo State, as you very much are aware, is ongoing. And indeed, this has been defined as a very critical one for the state, especially for the history of the Sunshine State. It's the first time that major candidates in an election would hail from just one senatorial district. And it's a poll where the ruling All Progressives Congress is expected to affirm its strength by winning another 4 years after the last 8 years in office. But then I'm asking, says the APC must win. Since 1999, no political party has ruled the state for more than 8 years. Another reason I may be thinking the way I am thinking, and of course, 17 political parties have been fielded, and the candidates are right there on the polls, and we are waiting who would be the next governor of Ondo State for the next 4 years. The contenders now are majorly Governor Lucky Ayedatiwa of the ruling All Progressives Congress, Agbola Ajayi of the People's Democratic Party, Olugbenga Dema of the New Nigeria People's Party, Ayo Olorunfemi of the Labour Party, Bamidele Akinboye of the Social Democratic Party, and Dr. Abbas Mimiko of the Zenith Labour Party. Now, pretty much, I would love to delve into this conversation looking through how much has gone down today being the election day in Ondo State. But to get this started, my name is Melody Ishola, and I'm joined on the show today by Daniel Anyotoye, a very distinguished colleague of mine, and again, yet another distinguished colleague whom we've actually had a long time on this platform talking on issues like this.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Nehemiah Azuku.
Wosu.
My apologies. This was better than the first surname I gave you. Okay, so let's get straight into this. And I'm interested first and foremost about the whole involvement of the INEC at this point in this. There's been a very loud allegation by the People's Democratic Party's candidate, in person of Agbola Ajayi, stating that there are allegations of vote buying, and he equally went as far as saying that that there is delay in commencement of voting in parts of the state. He also said it took him 10 minutes before he could cast his vote. He also faulted why the security personnel were stationed so close to him where he voted. And then he finally says the beavers' devices are not working. Although the election is peaceful to some extent, I have concerns. Gentlemen, this is where we get it started. We've already gone past deliberating on how prepared INEC is or not. Whatever the preparation they've made, we're already in it. So if this is coming at this point from a major contender in this election, whether major or not, a contender in this election, what do we make of it? Is it another political gimmick? Is it another way of, what exactly is he saying beyond what we hear him say? Daniel Ayotoye.
Thank you, our viewers, for staying with us. I think it's sad, really, to have such a situation coming from the opposition party. Yes, of course, some will say it's political gimmicks, but I don't see it as that. The man has just gone to vote, experienced some abnormalities within the process, and he had to say it. And you know, for him to have come out to say it, this is a record of what he experienced while he voted. And of course, it raises concern and questions about the process. If he could say it, what about so many persons who don't have that access to talk to the media, to talk to the public about what is actually happening within the electioneering process? So it's really concerning.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you, Daniel. And of course, Nehemiah. So I am concerned. So he spoke up, rightly as Daniel said, he has the platform. Somebody was listening to him. What about those that won't be listened to? But generally, let's look at what people have maybe complained about, reported about so far until this midday, 16th of November 2024, regarding how the election has been in Ondo State. What would your own judgment of the entire process until this moment be?
Thank you for this opportunity to come back here today.
It's always a pleasure to host you.
Definitely we will always have these issues concerning how INEC's preparation towards these elections, and that is where we always talk about our election integrity. For the governor, for the candidates of the PDP, to have come out openly to say these things, unlike the previous election where we had the INEC conducted its year-day election, and as at the time the major candidates voted, they came out to say, okay, the election has been peaceful, INEC did what they were supposed to do at that time. But for Agbala Ajayi to come out and say, this is what is happening, at this time I voted, but it is largely peaceful for now, but there are some kind of irregularities due to INEC's preparation. It is something that we should really look at going forward. Yeah. This is the last election off cycle in Nigeria this year. Next year we're having Anambra's election. So we are expecting INEC to do the right things. Why don't you look at these complaints when they come in and do right with these things? So we can't continue to have this, and we want the people to have trust. We want INEC to build public trust about how they conduct elections. When a major candidate is complaining about how the beavers works, it's taking him like 10 minutes, 15 minutes to vote.
Before he could vote. So if it takes one person, it's just simple mathematics, really, Daniel. What do you say?
Because when it takes one person 10 minutes to vote,
how long would it take 100 people?
Everybody in the queue to vote at that polling unit.
So would we not, at the end of the election process, casting of vote process, have excluded some people because of the time wasted in capturing votes for every individual?
And I think also we have to consider the fact that this is the polling unit of the PDP governorship candidates, and it is expected that most times, of course, oftentimes extra efforts were put in. So it shows that the extra effort that has been put into the activities or the processes of this polling unit is what we are seeing now. So again, it tells us, like he said, about the credibility of the election. If this is happening at the PDP's candidates polling unit, what is happening at the polling unit of Mr. Saheed, that is the carpenter of one particular street?
Absolutely.
That nobody knows.
You know where this brings me, because you said, as expected, Nehemiah, when you spoke, that INEC would have done everything possible to prepare and whatnot. But again, it's also almost as expected that there will be some issues that have always been characteristics of most elections that we've had, especially in recent times. And you recall when we started 2023 with the whole IREV, IKINICON, and so on and so forth. Beavers. Right? Yes, beavers. Now, I'm taking it beyond beavers. Agbala Ajayi has come and lamented over beavers as of yet. We do not know how many more people would speak up. But then I'm thinking, let's look into the future. The end of all this game, of all this process, is the announcement of the result. And just before the announcement of the result, people want to see the transparency of the entire process. As of this moment, what do you say we make of INEC's result viewing platform, which is essentially the IREF, regarding what they have done differently from the last elections and the complaints that we've had, so that this time around, at least, let the integrity be restored for INEC? I think I'm personally concerned. We should constantly build, improve on what the last was. They say, if you make a mistake once, let's say that's a mistake. If it happens again,
then you know.
Now this is a state election. It is just a gubernatorial election. House of Assemblies and what's not are not holding. Local government elections are not holding at the same time. What if we're now holding a general election where you expect that every resource of INEC would be exhausted? what should we be reporting?
I think before that time there would have been a kind of an adjustment within the Electoral Act. I know for sure there's this deliberation within the National Assembly about amendments of the Electoral Act, which of course is one of the things, the mistakes of the last election. Of course, it's something that will be affected with what the process that they are doing now. But again, it also have to, or puts up to the National Assembly that they need to do more, especially with what has happened with the recent off-cycle election. So if they are able to put in these measures in the Electoral Act, then it will be fine. But then let us forget that one of the things that has given us a lot of concern is the transmission of these results to each poll through the voters. Yes. But again, from the Supreme Court judgments during the presidential election, we were made to understand that the INEC is not compelled by law to transmit through beavers.
They could as well also do, which I recall equally started a controversy around.
And that's because I
didn't do it. Why then did we have it in the Act? One, and then two, why did we spend so much? Yes. And why did you say to us that electronic transmission would, in a lot of ways, stem, corruption and the involvement of
the reason why it would be very hard to actually use completely beavers, and if the law even made it, then the law should also look at the networks. The law should also look at the gadgets, the equipment, because these are equipments could malfunction at any point in time, even deliberately.
Do we not have banking operating in every political ward in this country? Fintech operates. If fintech can do it successfully, I do not know why a very critical thing as choosing who leads us, as choosing who dictates what happens with my destiny in the next 4 years, cannot be taken into accurate consideration.
I have a view that for the 2023 elections, INEC wasn't ready for that election, because there is another thing to make a law.
There's another thing to be capable of implementing
the law. So the INEC spent a lot of money trying to put in the beavers in place. A lot of our money. Putting in the beavers in place and assuring, and they went ahead on multiple occasions, assuring Nigerians.
Testing it and telling us it was
assuring Nigerians that the beavers will work. This will work. Over time, Nigerians have been clamoring for our elections, to shift from the usual manual type
to become totally electronic.
And the introduction of the beavers even into our legal system was a welcome development. And if we can honestly follow suit and make sure that this is what we are ready to use, then it will happen. Networks will not stop it from happening. That is the truth. Network will stop it. Network did not stop the uploading of images, human images, onto the IRF. Network did not
say. I want to say to you, if we constantly make a provision for excuses, then in the same breath, we cannot have results.
I think I would like to add to or to say something about what he has just said. You see, it's not about all criticism. The reality is that we have to check these things side by side. Yes, we understand. I would say, and I would not agree, that INEC was not prepared for the election, for 2023 election. What really happened was that, according to their explanation, that these gadgets was the first time they are bringing up these gadgets. They never expected the voluminous number of persons that moved into that in terms of the voting.
Excuse you. I'm
coming. In terms of I'm coming. Hold on. I'm coming. Let me land before you bury me. What?
They had the number of registered voters.
Yes.
And if you were sure of the numbers of registered voters, hold on, and you had the accurate figure of those who already came for their voter cards, you had an idea.
You will also understand the bandits of our network. What we have in Nigeria. But the reality remains that what I'm saying is, you see, we are not saying that INEC is perfect, or we are not saying that INEC is totally wrong.
We are saying, continue to improve.
And that is the improvement. Like we were speaking the last time, and I said that yes, we can get better, but again, we have to get better through the process. But the problem we have is that we have some people within the system that is always compromising.
Let me not talk about some people. I feel like we are so quick to say some people, some persons, some. Please, let us take responsibility. Somebody has been made the head of INEC for a reason. There are tasks, responsibilities, and deliverables. Nigerians just want to see their votes count. From the list of us, the person who just turned 18 this year, who waited a whole 18 years to be able to decide what happens with the governance of a state, or even if it were the nation, right? So you turned 18 and patriotically you went to the polls, and then you're waiting to vote and the beavers is preventing you from voting. What does that do to your patriotism? What does that do to your belief in the process and the integrity of the umpire electoral body?
See, the process of election, we have severally done different elections and we are not seeing any much differences. However, we are seeing some little changes. Now, within those little changes, I believe, and that is why I said the National Assembly is already looking at the Electoral Act, and it is believed that as soon as they effect those necessary changes on the Electoral Act, we should be able to see the difference that we want for the next election. However, from what we are seeing, we have seen all indicators. The present election process, whatever is going on within in Ondo State and all that, the crisis aspect that has to do with us having talks and shooting and all that is also part of the system. So even after we are through with the Electoral Act, we also have to address this.
Thank you so much.
I want to say something. The election umpire should be concerned about establishing election integrity. Now, when we talk about
it is their responsibility.
It is their responsibility. Now, electoral offenders, those that were caught, have they been prosecuted?
Now, let's even ask.
That's
2023 election.
They've not been prosecuted up till date.
Let's say that was voluminous. There were lots of people caught. Of the off-season, off-cycle elections, let's go to Edo State. Let's go to Kogi State. Those that were caught, those that were found wanting, what has happened to them until now? In today's election, barely half the day, some people have actually also been caught. And what will happen to them? Daniel Ayotoye, I just saw your report where you said some man with two
Ghana must go.
It's a report. So if it's don't tell me.
It's two Ghana must go.
Ghana must go. Yes. Filled with money. Because we need to know what's in the Ghana must go.
Yes.
So just Ghana must go of clothes.
It's money.
So let's not be
it's cash.
Misinforming our audience. So Ghana must go of money, right? Was just caught in barely an hour ago.
Yes.
Was just caught in Ondo. Just of course going about the gospel of distribution of
money, yes,
for election success. I do not want to call it that name. By all means, I was trying to avoid that word, but of course that's where it comes back down to. But I was just hoping the guy was about spreading joy, and just saying, guys, let's just make you happy. We know you are under the sun and in the rain, trying to make things happen. And I feel like, as many people would say and argue, that money can really not be separated from elections. That even in the best of democracies across the world, the United States just finished their elections where President Donald Trump, ex-President Donald Trump, emerged again, right, to be the next president of the United States. However, recall that during the process, he also was found alleging corruption, alleging rigging, alleging vote buying, alleging. And then you say to yourself, for goodness sake, where isn't vote buying in existence? But where our own system is concerned, very quickly, I'd like for us to look critically at what you think could have happened differently. During the last election in 2023, what was the foreign exchange rate? What were the foreign exchange rates? What is it today? How much did you buy rice before the last general elections? How much are you buying rice now? So say to people, don't take their money, vote your conscience, vote your people still want to survive until tomorrow to see their conscience come alive. How do we predicate this whole gamut of vote buying, and what our people stand to gain or lose? I'm starting with you, Nehemiah.
Truth is, it will be very, very difficult, extremely very difficult, if not impossible, to preach to somebody that finds it difficult to eat, not to collect money to vote. I think what the government should do first is fix the country, fix the economy. There are things that we have National Orientation Agency. When you fix the economy, now it is a job of the National Orientation Agency to reorientate the people. But by then, if you begin to reorientate the people, some people don't have ears to hear those things when they are hungry.
They are shakers.
A lot of things. Fine. we cannot continue to move this way. We will keep telling people, if you sell your votes, you are selling your destinies. Because when you sell your votes to somebody that you know, that you don't even know if that person can make things better for you. But that is why we said fix the economy. Take poverty. Poverty cannot just leave the country.
But does the government or the ruling class gain anything from reducing poverty? No, a critical look.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Do you think they gain something? Let me have you
now, because if you take, when people have jobs, people have things to do, they earn a living, a decent living, you will see that a lot of all these electoral malpractices will reduce during elections.
But what does electoral malpractice serve? I think that's a question to them. It serves the ruling class. Okay, thank you.
It serves the ruling class and those that have interests in elections. If I have interests in election, I could do everything possible to ensure that my candidate wins. So, but I would want to ask Melanie, do you want to end vote buying 100%?
Practically, as a student of political science, it cannot end.
It cannot end. The reality is, if you want to reduce, if you want to reduce vote buying, go to electronic voting. We have seen this thing practiced even within the community of universities.
I said to you, electronic buying would, in a lot of ways, stop some irregularities.
Yes, electronic voting
would not control vote buying.
It will reduce it to a very large extent.
And I doubt it to be large extent.
No, it will not.
I doubt it to be large extent. Would it reduce?
Let me tell you why it will be reduced.
I doubt it to be large
Let me
extent.
tell you, I've seen these things come in play.
Okay,
I've seen these things operate even within the university system. This is how it works. One, when you have electronic voting, the level of spending on campaign will be reduced. And of course, the person you are sending money to that you say you want to buy his or her vote, you don't know if the person will vote for you where he or she is.
How about the rigging of the electronic systems themselves?
Yes. And that is...
We need to hold a holistic conversation around electronic voting in a place like Nigeria.
When you talk about election integrity, when we have elections in the education environment, schools, and the rest of them. Now, the knowledge and the IQ of everybody involved in these elections, in those environments,
on campuses,
you can't compare the level of somebody, the market woman, the carpenter outside. They don't. When you talk about election,
how was the U.S. election? How was the U.S. election conducted?
People voted from even everywhere.
From everywhere.
World. People, U.S. citizens who were not even
in the country, they voted.
The country where our citizens outside the shores of this country cannot vote.
And that is why we need to now adopt a system.
That's work in progress.
Those are about things.
We have to adopt it. It's something we can adopt. If they are doing it and it's working for them, but their political class will not allow us.
Because they know that those ones, they are knowledgeable. There are some things that you cannot just tell them as a candidate.
Gentlemen, but whilst on campus, I remember there was still election buying.
Yes.
election,
Of course, you
whatever.
can't.
Once it's
Hold on.
physical.
And this is what
Once
I'm
it's
trying
physical
to say.
appearance.
I am trying to say our campuses are a subset of the larger system.
Okay.
It is like campus, like national. Permit me to use that simile. Like national, like campus. I've seen it happen. I schooled in Oyo State, and there was a time that you could almost say that elections in Oyo State are a simulation of elections on campus. Yes, at Lautech. And it was so bad that there was also the involvement of campus politicians who have been used, who have become puppets of state political players, and eventually everything becomes war zone for just a campus election. And then I now take it to the whole, who does vote buying, who does rigging of election, who does it favor? And you both responded, of course, the ruling class, the political class. All right, if it does favor them, why then do you think that empowering and freeing the masses from poverty also serves?
And that's why they deliberately weaponized poverty.
No,
That's why they deliberately.
According to them, maybe they feel if everybody is, wise enough to know the real things when it comes to governance, definitely it will affect them, because they know that they are not going there to do the public any good.
Maybe some good.
Because if they are going there to do the, if they are going there to do the public
so much good,
you will see it reflect in everyday living,
But-
life of the public.
But see,
Because that's why they cannot spearhead election integrity, because they know that with these things in place, man.
yeah.
can we address this issue even from the basics, the foundation?
Which is
One, which is the fact that how do you emerge as a candidate in the first place?
Thank you.
These processes, you spend a huge amount of money. I can't, as I am now, as little as a local government chairman in my local government, go and contest.
Yes.
Because I know my purse.
But can we
If
talk
you
about
go
how
there,
much has been spent by Shola Ebiseni, who's no longer in this election?
this is what we're
What
saying.
we're talking about. And can we now talk
because
about?
you have to pay lawyers.
Yes.
The lawyers that will go to court.
Yes.
You have to pay.
Mr. Obi was at the campaign rally, and what's not?
Before-
Take them to gather people at campaign rallies. You think it's cheap to gather people? You think the heads you see are for free?
You will have to mobilize. There's what we call mobilization fund.
And 3 days ago, the court said you are not.
But let's talk quickly before we wrap up today on the Labour Party debacle. Really, how did they find themselves here? I mean, on those states that we know was about the Labour Party states.
Yes.
It used to be like Ilu. I can't remember how it used to be called when I was way younger. And then we used to think, oh, for real, the Labour people own Ondo. And of course, look at the former governor, Arakuri Rotimi Akeredolu. He rose to power under the platform of Labour Party in his first. In his first.
No.
It was
Mimiko.
Yes, Mimiko. The Labour Party, and he actually quite popularized the ruling of the Labour Party and what they could do. And maybe again is why we have a sort of, is this a 2-horse race? Is it a 3-horse race? Where people are thinking is just a sort of is it pity to the former governor Mimiko, which is seemingly giving Abbas Mimiko some sort of prominence in this election. But largely, a lot of people have come to say this is just a PDP and an APC affair. But very briefly, the Labour Party debacle. What do you make of it before we make it?
You see, the reality for me is that it's just like what happened to PDP within the presidential context. You see, if there's a political party that is present, and that is why I always tell politicians, listen, you are not going to be there, especially if you are governor, you are senator, you are House of Rep member, you are whatever, you are not going to be there forever. Always remember that whatsoever thing you do will also speak in the future. So you have to recognize that fact and do well. Make sure that the people are well taken care of, the welfare of Nigerians are well handled. If you do it, nobody will say, oh, you shouldn't continue your second time, you shouldn't continue, your party should not continue and all that. So I think this is a thing of the people decided at the right points as they believe, that we don't want you again, we don't want your party, you are not giving us what we want, and that is why they want another thing.
And that's a win for democracy.
That's it.
Thank you, Daniel. So, what do you think?
That's the beauty of democracy. When the votes, the decisions of the people are allowed, to count and made happen. Now, the issue of the Labour Party rose to fame in 2023 because of just one man, and that is Peter Obi. And we've heard politicians talk about transactional politics and the rest of them. Now, Labour Party, everybody came to know Labour Party when Dr. Mimiko, became the governor of Ondo State. And since then, he had to leave the Labour Party to go to the PDP.
Absolutely.
So, former governor of Ondo State, Adams Oshomole,
left the Labour Party.
They have to leave the Labour Party to go to. The reason is to make the Labour Party a strong force is a very, very big problem in our political arena. To make the Labour Party a strong force is a very, very big problem in our political arena, and it is because of one interest
or the other. Now, conflicting interests or not, is it because the Labour Party is so called? Does it mean it is essentially a party that is pro-Labour? I think this is a conversation for another time. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on this off-cycle election watch. And indeed, it is not the last for the day. We shall be back shortly to give you updates on what is happening on ground in Ondo State. Of course, my dear colleague Nehemiah Onwosu has been right here on the program with me, and Daniel Anyotoye. I shall release the gentleman to go back and man their desk and give us the news that we need to make our day. My name is Melanie Ishola. Thank you so much for joining. And there's still a lot more to deliberate upon. Do well to look out for our last broadcast of the day on the Ondo elections. Good afternoon.